Okay, so here we are in Illustrator. Here's some of the student examples with the windmill and the sun that I'm going to animate, show you how to do that. Then here's the train. Paying attention to size will save yourself time, so you're not resizing things in After Effects. So again, if you went to Illustrator and you're setting up your artboard, just go File, New, and it will give you the same film and video template. And then I would go to 1920 by 1080 and go Create. It does this thing here where it's like, well, where's the white? What's going on here? This looks like a checkerboard. This means it's a transparent background. So when you're going to that template, it defaults to the transparent background. All I would do if I was starting this file is I would go to my rectangular tool, click and drag the white rectangular tool. And then I would start making something inside of here. And you can see here's the black area here. This is the artboard. So it's going to be the edge of the video screen is right there. So if I just click and drag this off to this side, you'll see that there you go. That's the edge of the video screen. People might be asking, what are these green things here? What is this stuff? These green lines are what they call safe margins area. They're invisible lines that the program throws over top of. So as you're designing your screen, or you're designing your animation or designing your something to go on the screen, these invisible lines tell you that everything will be safe inside of this area. This is a risky area that it's not safe. And in this area, things may be cut off depending on the screen size. So you design all your main action inside of here. Outside of here, when it starts spilling over here, you want something less important because it might be cut off. Illustrator also has layers. So you click on this, here's the layers here. And then you basically start making shapes. I make a couple quick shapes here just to show you something quickly. So you see in the layer here, I made the different paths. So I made the ellipse and the square, and it's popped it into this layer here. So the layers, what you got to get your head around, layers inside of Illustrator are different than layers inside of Photoshop, where layers inside of Photoshop just automatically stack up on top of one another like pieces of paper. For whatever reason, they designed the layers in Illustrator to function more like groups or folders, right? So if you just go click on a layer, you start building stuff, it'll have all the stuff you built inside of that layer. So you have to click a new layer here, and then you can start building new shapes on top of that. So I'm gonna make a star on this layer here. What you need to keep in mind is if you're preparing an Illustrator file to go into After Effects, you want all of your paths, all of these things, you want all of these things here in separate layers. It's kind of extra thinking, but you need all of these in separate layers or / groups, folders, whatever you want to think of them as. So I would then go here and I would take this rectangle and shift it out of here into this layer so you can shift things around. And this is where labeling becomes really important. So I'm going to make one for the circle. So I'm going to drag the ellipse out of here into here. So now I have my background, have my circle, have my square, and have my star all inside their separate layers here inside of Illustrator. This is going to make more sense in a minute. If I just made one layer here inside of Illustrator, it's going to default to throwing all of my shapes in that one layer. I then need to go and separate them just like that. Make a new layer, pull the shape out, put it in its layer, label it, then it's ready to go into After Effects. So for example, I'm going to zoom in on the train here. See, there's wheel 1. So I have wheel 1. If I open up wheel 1, there's the spoke group. So I made spokes, or the student made spokes in that for this, right? We don't need those in separate layers. So we built a wheel here, right? And we just labeled that as its own layer. We don't need all these separate things brought into After Effects. We just need the wheels brought into After Effects. So we then take all the shapes that are associated with the wheel and made separate wheel layers. Likewise, separate layers for each of the letters. So here is the scene set up like a landscape scene. There's the building. Put the logs on a layer. Green hills on a layer. Sun on a layer. Propeller. Let's open up the propeller. So you see there's a group making up the different sections of the propeller, but we just needed to make a single layer just for the propeller. We don't need all the parts in the separate layers. So you get everything labeled. You get all of your art that you want that are linked together in one layer in a layer group here. Label it, save it, and now things are ready to go into After Effects and start animating. Okay, so now I'm in After Effects and I want to bring in my stuff from Photoshop and Illustrator and start animating it. And I want to animate it in compositions. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to go New Composition. Again, I recommend 1920 by 1080, nothing 4K if you're just starting out. Go OK. I'm going to right click. I'm going to rename this Landscape. So then I'm going to go here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to import. I'm going to import the file. I'm going to import the Sun and Windmill file that I set up. You don't want to import it as footage. You want to import it as a composition. You want to keep the layer sizes. And it's fine if you select Create Composition, it's going to throw it into a composition for you. So if you go Open, so and then it organizes here. If you click on the composition here, it organizes it ready to animate for you. So my landscape one here is at 1080. My Sun and Windmill one here is at a different ratio. So I could just keep animating at this ratio here. It's fine. If I want it to be more true to what I'm going to be throwing on YouTube or Vimeo, then I'd want to kind of go in and then restart things over here. So I'm going to go show you how to do that. I'm going to select all of these basically layers from my Illustrator file, drag them down into here, and then I've got that there. If I need to do a group scale here, I'm going to shift select all these, hit S, and then I can scale that up into the area here. Things are all jumbled around, so I'm going to get out of here, and I'm just going to use this other format just to show you. So right here, I usually set this to fit. If you're having lag issues, I never go full resolution when I'm like watching it. I'll go half or a quarter. So I'm going to go half resolution here. This will help it not be so laggy for you. Because this is half resolution, it's looking a little pixelated. So if I went full, it clears up the pixelation. But half, it just drops it down so things run faster in the program. Here's my propeller. Let's open up the propeller. Let's open up the transform. And all I want to do on the propeller is animate a rotation. Now you see this is a bit of a pain. It's not rotating perfectly around the center point here. So what I need to do is I need to pick the propeller. I go up here into this tool, anchor point tool, or Y is the shortcut key. Click it. And I just move the anchor point directly in the center of that. So I just have to make sure it's rotating around the anchor point where I want it to. Now it's rotating perfectly. Then I just go to my rotation, drag that over, keyframe a propeller rotation. And there we go. It's rotating. I'm zoomed in to 400%. If I just go here and hit fit, pops that back out. Here's the sun layer. I want to animate the sun going low and popping up. So I'm just going to go to the sun and I'm going to animate a position keyframe. So I'm going to position the sun down here and lower. That's where I'm going to start. Click the keyframe, move the sun over, move the sun up, and now I've created the morning sun coming. There's a simple animation there, the sun rising, the propeller spinning. Say you accidentally didn't make, or you don't have a background here, right, in the program. You're like, hey, I want some sky in here. So if that didn't happen for you, this is a little bit of an extra note. I'm going to move this up. Down here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go new, and I'm going to put in a solid. And I can make this solid whatever I want. So if you forgot something in Illustrator, like a background color or a sky, you can right click and make a new solid in that area there. You pick a color here. So let's make this a bit darker. And I can go, okay, there's my solid, drag my solid down here, shuffle it down there, and now I have the solid on there. And I can attach things to the solid. That might be kind of handy. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to look up a gradient. It's gradient ramp that I want. So I want to put a gradient ramp on this. So I'm going to go click here. Here's my gradient ramp. So now I attach a gradient ramp to the solid. I have all sorts of options. I can animate this sky going from night to day. So let's do that. I'm going to go to effects. Here's my gradient ramp. Let's darken that end color here like this. Then keyframe the color in here to change. Pop that up. As it's popping up, I'm going to change this black to blue. And change this to kind of like a secondary blue. And there you go. The sun's coming up. It's changing from day to night. And the propeller's going.